Persona 3 Reload is a game. Anyways, on my first playthrough of P3R, I tried Orpheus only, however, I dropped it, as the only way to get new skills was to grind for skill cards from sword cards. Kind of boring, however, I then remembered a little video from a small tiny little channel called Nya Lee. Yeah, that's a fair bit of views. So I decided to blatantly steal his idea and ask the question, can you beat Persona 3 Reload without using the Velvet Room? The rules are quite simple. 1. I can't enter the Velvet Room. That would be against the namesake of the challenge. 2. I must play on Merciless, the hardest difficulty. Yeah, unlike Persona 5, Merciless is an actual difficulty and not just a joke. 3. No skill cards. Yeah, I'm only using skills the persona learns naturally. 4. No cheats or exploits. This one is simple. 5. No DLC, not because the personas are broken, I just don't have it. Also, I hate to do this, but please subscribe. It's my first time doing something like this, so if you enjoy it, please let me know. Anyways, let's begin. To start off with, we walk through the average day in Britain, and arrive at our new lodge for the next several months, Iwatodai Dorm. We meet an average citizen of Britain who asks for our name indefinitely, not a contract to lock us here for the next year or so. All we need is to give him our name, but since we don't trust him, we give him the name of a fear of ours, the fear of the color blue. We are then introduced to some odd people who have guns, and here I was thinking this was Japan. These are Best Girl Yukari and Best Girl Mitsuru, two of the residents of the dorm. Yukari shows us to our room, we put our stuff away and pass out. We're greeted by Yukari in the morning, who shows us to our new school, Gekoukan High. We meet our teacher, Ms. Tortellini, and after classes, Best Boy Stupe, Ace Defective. We start to walk home with him, but then he has to go watch the new Law video on FNAF, so we walk home alone, just like how it's always been. We arrive at the dorm, pass out, wake up, go to school, return to the dorm, meet Akutsuki, go to sleep, get watched during our sleep, and don't turn into a coffin during the British time. You know, an average day in Japan. While asleep, we're sent to the room of our nightmares as it's all blue. We quickly grab whatever the strange people are giving us and leave. The next day, we have a date with Junpei before going back to the dorm to sleep, only to be rudely interrupted by Yukari during the British time, who then takes us to the roof to hide from something. However, when we arrive on the roof, that something appears, the final boss of Britain, the Magic Man. Being the lady she is, Yukari tries to shoot herself, but learns that in the game of sword, gun, slap, slap beats gun. Since the price for losing sword, gun, slap is death, the Magic Man goes in for the kill, but then we have a realization. The game of sword, gun, slap, it has no DLC. So we decided to add some DLC, and we included ourselves. We beat everything, so we decide to test it by shooting ourselves. We win, and as a prize we unlock our persona, Orpheus. However, Orpheus decides that we're cringe, so he evolves into his older goth brother Thanatos. Thanatos decided to play as well, using sword to beat slap, devolve back into Orpheus, and now we have our first battle. We then go into a coma due to the blood loss from shooting ourselves. How sad. Once again, we're in the fear room, so we exit as fast as possible, only to see a week and change has gone by. Since we're functioning, we must return back to school, but when at the dorm, we're indoctrinated to the cult known as C's, and get our own gun. Hey, if I get an unregistered firearm for the price of joining a cult, sign me up. We meet the British boy again, who spouts some random law we don't care about, let Junpei join the cult. And on the funniest day of the year, we go to Tartarus. It's a quick visit, but we do get our second persona of the run, Upsaras. Upsaras is good for an upcoming guardian, as her affinity with ice is great, but otherwise she'll get quickly replaced by Silky when we get her. Once we get back, we have a boys' night with Junpei and Best Boy Akihiko. So where do three teenagers go when they want to hang out? Of course, the police station. We buy some upgrades for door, and finally we're free to do what we wish. You don't care for the things I do during the day, so I'll throw up what I did here. On 4/30, we're forced to go to Tartarus, but I was planning to go anyway. Let's start with all the personas on this floor. To start with, we have Orpheus, our starter. His important skills are Agi for the fire damage, and Tyrande for the lower attack. He's weak to electric and dark, but no Guardian in Thebel uses either. He also resists fire, which is great for the first Guardian. Next is Upsara's. She has both Bufu for ice damage and Secunda for lower accuracy and evasion. The ice resistance is great, but there's a better ice persona coming soon. We then have Angel, who has Guru for wind damage, and Sukakaja for increased accuracy and evasion. Resistance to electric and light rarely if not ever shows up in Thebel. And lastly, for the first half of Thebel, we have Pixie. Pixie is used for Zeo for electric damage, and rarely Tarakaja. Electric resistance never really comes up though, the same problem with Angel. The enemies are usually weak to one of the 4 elements, but conserve MP when you can. Orpheus has the skill Bash, which requires HP to use, so use that if you don't need shuffle time. On floor 5, we reach the first Guardian. For the first Guardian, you fight 2 ruthless Ice Ravens. The strategy is simple. Start with Upsaras in case that the Ravens go first for the ice resistance, and when it's your turn, switch to Orpheus and spam Aggie. That's it. A second try victory. Next is the Guardians on floor 11. 2 magic hands and a barbaric beast wheel. The magic hands are weak to fire, while the beast wheel is weak to wind. The strategy took a bit to figure out, but it worked like a charm. To start off, use Pulpina with Pixie on the beast wheel to confuse it. Since the beast wheel is most of the damage, confusing it leaves the magic hands very vulnerable and easy to pick off with Orpheus Aggie. Once the magic hands are taken care of, use Guru with Angel Pulpina to confuse and profit. 12 tries for this one. I then took the rest of the day off, coming back on 5/6 to deal with the final Guardian, floor 17's Swift Axle. This is a good time to introduce the 2 other personas you can find in Thebel. The less useful one for now is Silky, who's just better than Upsaras, except without the Sukakaja. But then we have the absolute goat for this Guardian, Ara Matama. Ara Matama has Aggie, Rakukaja, and Rakunda, which is already good, but then comes the best part. Ara Matama resists strike. For the first few tries I didn't have Ara Matama, and it was just impossible, so I went back and got him from a shuffle time, sliding back into the fight quickly. Swift Axle only has both Guru and Magaru, along with its combo Tarakaja and Assault Dive. It'll use 2 magic skills before using Tarakaja and Assault Dive. It's weak to electric, so Pixie can use Zeo to hit the weakness, and the plan is simple. Turn 1, you use Tyrande, attack with Zeo for 2 turns, and before it uses Tarakaja, Rakukaja with Ara Matama, then guard. That means you'll have your defense up, and Swift Axle will have neutral attack along with you having a resistance to strike from Ara Matama. You take around 10 to 20 damage and it's a simple loop except for when it's not. In Persona, electric skills can inflict shock, and shock negates one of the target's turns. However, since Swift Axle hates me, inflicting shock won't count towards the combo, and that'll mean Tyrande will run out before he uses Tarakaja, meaning he'll have positive attack. Along with that, whenever you hit a downed enemy with its weakness, you can inflict Dizzy, and Dizzy has the same effect as shock. It's not hard to adjust to, but it's annoying. It's a long process, but done on the 4th attempt. Now the full moon, and the blowjob shadow. We get a report that a strong presence is outside of Tartarus on a monorail, so the gang decides to go and investigate the monorail. We quickly run into some goons, so we end their lives, but Junpei runs off. You only have Dor and Yukari for a bit, but the enemies are easy. When we reach the priestess, Junpei joins us for the fight, and the battle begins. For this, I use my party members to attack, and you'll see why. Let's start with the gimmick. There's a time limit, 30 minutes. Now you may be thinking, oh, but that seems like a lot of time. It is, except for the fact that the priestess can lower it. Her unique skill, Invitation to Chaos, cuts down the time by almost half. The first ITC cuts the time to around 14 minutes, and the second cuts it down to around 4 minutes. Really, the only way to do this solo is to grind several levels, but I don't want to do that. Her attacks consist of Bafula, Ice Storm, Eerie Sound, ITC, and Summon. Her summon can summon some tiaras who are either weak to fire, ice, or wind, but you should know it from before while running through the monorail. Now to start, my idea was to use Upsaras for the ice resistance, and use Secunda. That didn't work, so I decided to use Orpheus Tyrande, while guarding with Junpei and Yukari for Ice Storm. From there, use Ara Matama for both Rakunda and Aggie, while both Junpei and Yukari use their magic to attack. When the tiaras appear, use the right magic to exploit weakness and finish them off with a multi-target gem to hit all targets. Otherwise, just keep attacking, and the priestess will go down. As the first real boss, there's not much to talk about. H tries to end the life of the priestess. Plot can wait. I need to tell you about the Guardians on floor 28. The Guardians are 2 Lightning Eagles and a Will-O-Wisp Eagle. This fight almost broke me. For one, the Lightning Eagles can cast Zeo, which can shock me, which means I'm dead. The Will-O-Wisp Eagle has Agi Lao, which can pretty much lead to death, seeing how it does half of my health. The Will-O-Wisp Eagle also has Sukakaja and Power Slash, and the Lightning Eagles have Power Slash as well. The only good things are that they have weaknesses, the Lightning Eagles being weak to wind, and the Will-O-Wisp Eagle being weak to ice. To do this fight I got the Proto Choker from Mitsuru for ACEING exams, the all-purpose apron from Tanaka's shopping program, and as for personas we use 3 new ones and an old one. Haled is Jack Frost, who's only here because he has Mabufu. We switch right after and rarely use him again. Angel is here for Sukakaja but also has access to Garou for the Lightning Eagles. Onmaraki is great because of his access to Wind and Tornado, along with resisting fire, however he is weak to Slash, so be careful of that. Lastly we have Fornius. He is here to spam Bufu, and not have a weakness to fire. The fight is simple to execute but frustrating. To start off, Mabufu with Jack Frost to knock down Will-O-Wisp, then switch to Angel for Garou on the Lightning Eagles, and when all are knocked down, Sukakaja, and pray that you avoid the attacks. Use odd morsels to heal, and hope that you get lucky with not getting feared, otherwise just try to kill the Lightning Eagles as quickly as possible. When the Will-O-Wisp uses Sukakaja, switch to a different persona as it's going to use Power Slash. Once the Lightning Eagles are gone, switch to Fornius and yeet Bufus at the Will-O-Wisp. Since Fornius is neutral to fire, Will-O-Wisp can't get a 1 more, so he's the perfect counter. With literally 0 megapixels remaining, I killed the Will-O-Wisp and I cheered. I lost track of how many attempts it took, but probably over 30. Anyways, back to our usually scheduled content. So the story for this chapter follows a simple premise. A girl named Best Girl Fukyu is getting bullied by some girls, and so they do the reasonable thing and lock her in the school. The school that turns into Me When I See Your Mother during the British time. Oh no, so she gets trapped there but people just chalk it up to her missing. Then for some reason the gang decides to tell ghost stories and look for Fuka on the full moon. Yeah, that's all that's important. We got Akihiko to join us. I introduced him, right? Yeah, sure I did. And we unlock requests. Those are important. Yes, they're allowed. I don't enter the Velvet Room after all. Once again, you don't care for what I did, so here's a table for what I did. Now let's get on to the main event. We already dealt with them, so we move on to floor 35's Guardian. Now, I won't bore you with all the personas in said block, just like in the first block, but I'll go in depth when I use them. The fight consists of 2 Grievous tables and a Heretic Magus. For this fight, you'll need Jack Frost, Lilim and Archangel for personas, and a specific piece of equipment called the Immunity Charm, which you can get from the police station. It makes you resist poison, and that's needed for this fight. If you couldn't tell, the Grievous tables are weak to ice, so Mabufu with Jack Frost is a great way to deal with them. However, the tables have access to Agi and Poisma. Poisma can be mitigated with the Immunity Charm, but Agi is Jack Frost's weakness, so we need Archangel to use Sukakaja on that. Otherwise, keep using Mabufu, and get lucky enough to dodge both Agi and Poisma. Once the tables are dead, use Zeo with Lilim, as the Heretic is weak to it, and then kill it. 13 attempts. On the next floor we run into the next Guardian, and this one is one of my favorites. 2 Slaughter Twins, and a disturbing dice blocks the way. Believe me when I say this, Lilim is made for this fight. She has access to Zeo, which the Slaughter Twins are weak to, and Marin Karen. Yeah, we're pulling a Mitsuru from P3FES. The fight revolves around the skill revolution. It increases the critical rate of all physical skills for everyone in the fight. Critical hits are death for us, so Sukakaja is needed, but if we survive until turn 2, woo boy, we can profit. To start the fight I use a purifying rice I got from a chest, which instantly kills one of the Slaughter Twins. Then knock down the other Slaughter Twins with Zeo, Koa, or if you have it, Armazio or Makoa gem, then use Marin Karen on the Slaughter Twins. If you land it, it'll make the target work for us instead of against us. The disturbing dice is immune to charm, so once it's just you and the dice, switch to Ara Matama for the strike resistance and attack. It's a lot of praying to RNG, but it's done in 21 attempts. Lastly, the easiest boss in Arca 1, the Clairvoyant Relic. It has access to all medium damage single target magic skills, but we can pretty much make this fight a cakewalk by using a new persona and a few others. To start off, start with a persona weak to electric. My choice was Archangel. Next turn, switch to Lilim, who resists electric, as at this point there's no persona who's immune to electric at this point. The relic will use Zyonga. If you want to be risky, don't guard, as if you guard, electric skills can't shock you. Then switch to Jack Frost, who is immune to ice. The relic will use Buffula. Then switch to Nigi Matama, who's immune to wind. The relic will use Garula. It'll repeat. Yeah, it'll use Maracunda at like half HP, but otherwise the fight is easy. 11 attempts, as I didn't have Nigi Matama for the first half, and I got unlucky with getting shocked for the second half. And now, we come to the full moon operation. To start, we're alone for a bit in Arca, but can quickly run through the few floors that we're alone to run into Junpei and Akihiko and... Fuka, what are you doing here? Well, we get a call from Mitsuru, telling us that everything is fine and return to the bottom floor. A seems reasonable. We stroll on down to the first floor, and learn that everything isn't fine, finding the fat and the thin. I thought about using my party members to buff and such, but I decided to try the fight solo. To start with, let's go over the gimmick of this fight. Both the Emperor and the Empress have a skill called Paradigm Shift, which changes their affinities. Usually you'd use Fuka's full analysis ability to see the weakness, then commit death, but the affinities go in a loop. For the Empress, she's weak to physical skills. She starts by being weak to pierce, then strike, then slash, then it's random, but she's usually dead by the time you reach slash. The Emperor over here is weak to magic. By the time you've killed the Empress, the Emperor will be weak to wind, then electric, then ice, then death.
It's done. I can start the analysis at any time. Please?
I'll go with Archangel.
The enemy aura has shifted. So they were changing their affinities to one.
I'll go with what to do. I'll go with I'll go with what to do. Sit.
The enemy lines.
What to do.
The enemy lines. The enemy lines are broken. No.
What to do.
The enemy lines are broken.
Something else. What to do. some serious damage. I'll go in.
The enemy lines are broken.
Locked it down. Here we go.
The enemy.
I'll go in. Have fire.
Ha, a simple boss fight taking 7 tries, almost the same as the last full moon operation. I feel like that'll change shortly. What's the worst that can? There's nothing really here for the story except Best Boy Shinjiro lore, and a brief teaser for Strega. You know, with Persona Addict, the personification of the nerd emoji, and Revolver Jesus. Here's the table for the days. Interesting Tartarus time. On 6/13, we go into Tartarus to learn about the unique reload mechanic Thea G. Thea G is interesting. Basically, a gauge sits right above your health, and whenever you do a certain action, it'll increase more than the base amount. For example, Dor gets a boost to the Thea G gauge whenever he summons a persona. Usually the characters get 2 Theurgies, one for their base persona and one for their evolved persona, but since we're special we get as many as. Let me check my notes. Compendium completion, and then go to the Velvet Room. Looks like for now we're stuck with our first Thea G, Cadenza. Cadenza is a 50% heal and Masuka Kaja. Oh, it saves on money for healing items, I guess. I'm pretty sure that you never are forced to go to the Velvet Room, so we might be stuck with only Cadenza for a good while. We also have access to Fuka's Thea G, which is either a full heal or heat riser, and maybe if you're lucky, an almost full SP refill. The next day we decide to storm Tartarus for its goods. On floor 47 we run into the first Guardians, 2 enslaved Cupids and a servant tower. The Cupids are weak to electric, so smite them down with the power of Tam Lin. They don't have a lot of health, but the tower can summon more. I don't know if it's a fixed amount, but they only summoned 1 additional Cupid during the fight. The Cupids buff the tower with Tarakaja, and inflict ailments like rage and confuse while attacking with wind skills. The tower is weak to dark and attacks in a pattern of Makuga. Assault dive, swift strike, repeat. Since the one persona with dark on Meraki is weak to light during Makuga, switch to Archangel to null light. Otherwise just keep using Ahar, and you'll send the tower to the Shadow Realm.
Oh, we have taken out 2 weapons. That's a enemy down. You hit a weakness. You dodged it. That's our leader. Dodge the attack. Nice one. Another enemy down. You dodged it. That's our leader. That's an enemy down.
I'm ready.
You hit a weakness.
I'll go in.
That's an enemy down.
Locked it down.
You hit a weakness. That's an enemy down.
Locked it down. I'll go in.
That's an enemy down.
I'm ready.
Not about desert.
Second try. Now we come to a very interesting Guardian for us. On 6/15, we go to Tartarus to fight our most annoying foe yet, Floor 54's lascivious lady and 2 profligate giggers. What does profligate even mean? Hold on. Recklessly extravagant or wasteful in the use of resources. Fair enough. The giggers focus on buffing themselves and hitting with strong physical attacks. They're weak to wind and they're pretty simple to deal with. Just use Onmaraki to blow the men away. Wait a minute. But then there's her. The lady is immune to all magic, so physical is the only way to deal damage. What does she do? Oh, that's easy. Use stagnant air and inflict ailments on you. Specifically charm and confuse. And want to know something? It has no weakness. Ailments are pretty much death for us depending on which one it is. If it's one that makes us unable to act, like freeze, shock or charm, then yeah, it's death. Things like poison and rage aren't instant death but can lead to death. Anyways, ailments can be guarded for instant failure, which is good if the enemy follows a pattern, and the lady does, for a bit. Before the pattern break, she would use stagnant air, then use ailments until it ran out, then reapply it. After a while, the lady decides to say fuck it to patterns, and randomly spam ailments, even when stagnant air isn't present. After a while, I tried the lady's own strategy against her, using ailments on her, such as distress and charm. But then I found the best skill for this fight. What's that skill? Why, it's Poisma. No, I'm not kidding. Poisma is a skill that has a high chance to inflict poison on an enemy. Now you may be thinking, oh, how is that useful? It's passive damage, meaning I can guard the ailments the lady throws at me. The run I figured out that poison was broken was the one I won. And it took 15 tries. Yeah, Anugami, the persona with Poisma, it'll be staying in my stock for a while, so I'll be abusing poison for as long as I can. For example, the floor 60 Guardian, the fleet-footed cavalry. Just use Poisma and you'll be good. Don't worry, the full moon shadows are immune to ailments, so they'll still be a problem. Oh, also we get introduced to missing person requests, which can grant us some pretty good items. Since we don't really care for social links and only do them for the Twilight fragments, we theoretically could go to Tartarus every day, so missing person requests are simple to do. So for this part my footage got a bit bugged. I'll try to fix it to the best of my ability, so if it seems a bit odd, you know why. Anyways, we now go to fight the full moon shadows. Like the other full moon shadows, you have to take your teammates along. I decide to take Yukari, Akihiko, and Mitsuru, which is the wrong team, but I didn't know that at the time. There's 2 shadows just like last time, but they're separate fights this time. Now where do we fight these shadows? Where else but a love hotel? Yeah, this part is a bit weird, but ignoring that, as soon as we reach the right room we find Nikocado Avocado. This fight is easy, but I wanted to make it harder, so I did what I did for Emperor and Empress, and did the fight solo. This fight is pretty trivial if you have Neko Shogun, as the Hierophant follows a strict pattern. It'll use Makuga, then Doomsday Doctrine, a skill that inflicts fear onto everyone, followed by Assault Dive, then repeat. There is a slight altercation though. When your teammates are dead, it'll use 2 Makugas before using Doomsday Doctrine. Now why is Neko Shogun great for this fight? 2 reasons. 1, he has Assault Dive, which is a medium damage skill, and 2, he nulls light. So since you can block Doomsday Doctrine, you would think that it's the only thing you need to guard, right? Fuck no, even with Sharp Student, which halves the chance of getting hit by a crit, the Nikocado still has almost an 100% chance to crit, and if he crits I get close to death. Just guard both Doomsday Doctrine and Assault Dive, and attack during Makuga. It'll take a while, as the Hierophant is fat, both in model and HP, but otherwise I think it was 6 tries to beat the Hierophant. After that we get locked in the room we fought the Hierophant in, so we smash the mirror, have the most infamous scene in the game, and meet up with Akihiko and Mitsuru. Once we do, we go to break some more mirrors, causing us to be cursed with bad luck for at least 21 years of bad luck. And that bad luck comes incredibly quickly due to the next boss, Sex 2, which we use party members to attack. Now remember the lascivious lady from a few minutes ago? Lovers is the same as her but worse. I'm not kidding. Lovers has Marin Karen's sexy dance which charms all allies, Holy Arrow, a pierce skill that inflicts charm and I'm pretty sure always crits, a Gidine, a heavy damage fire skill which Mitsuru is weak to, Heartbreaker, an almighty move that deals more damage if the target is charmed, and the worst move, Seductive Breath. It's just permanent stagnant air. So does Lovers have a pattern? Yes, but I don't really want to talk about Lovers too much because this is the worst boss in the entire game. Just guard when it should use Sexy Dance and Holy Arrow, guard with Mitsuru when a Gidine comes up and Lovers will go down. 4 tries but 3 times as annoying as the other 4 bosses. Get me out of this boss. After the boss, Junpei develops an inferiority complex because he wants to do the cool guy stuff, and we get another teaser of Strega. Story. Alright, we get to know why the full moon shadows exist. You can blame Mitsuru's family for that, go to Yakushima for summer break, meet Best Girl Toaster, and learn more about the full moon shadows. Learning that if all of them die then we can stop being British, seems easy. Oh, and Junpei develops a love life with the girl from Strega who's named Best Girl Chidori. Good for him. Wait, the girl from Strega? Oh no, here's the table for events. You can figure out what requests I did. Let's go to Tartarus. Right, a few more things. The antique store in Polonia Mall opens up, so that's cool. It can give us some rare items in exchange for gems along with new and better weapons. Also, I know I haven't really said what equipment I have if it's not really important, but it's mostly just the best equipment from either the police station, requests, Tartarus or Tanaka's shop. So the first Guardian, Floor 77's 3 ochlocratic sands, and another word I need to look up. Let's see. Government by the mob. Huh, well this fight is hard. They've got Agalio, Marigian, Power / Vacuum / and Fatal End. They're weak to ice, but well, what if we don't do that? Rakshasa is a physical-based persona that has pretty good affinities, being resistant to slash and pierce, and being weak to wind and light. Now why am I bringing him up? He's going to carry us throughout this chapter. Why? Well, because of one specific skill. What's that skill? Getsu-ei. Getsu-ei is a medium damage / attack, but it has an additional effect. The closer it is to a full moon, the more damage it'll deal. Yeah, you saw the table, you know what time it is. Grab a cup card that gives you Heat Riser for the next fight, put on a flame brooch to mitigate the fire damage you take, and charge fuckers Thea G. Rakshasa also has dodge /, regenerate 1 and counter, so that'll mitigate damage. Otherwise just chop away. It took 17 tries, but slicing and dicing is an effective strategy. Oh yeah, Rakshasa is definitely a gigachad of legend. Now this fight is pretty hard. On floor 82, we run into the Heat and Sky Overseer along with the Arcanist Decapitator. This is a battle of the elements, and there's only one way to win. Use elemental attacks. No, that's silly. Before the fight, grab a cup that grants charge and have Jack-o'-lantern. To begin, Miragi to get a 1 more from the Sky Overseer, and use Provoke on the Decapitator. Even with Rage, the Decapitator can't do much damage, and as long as you survive until the next turn, the fight is pretty much over. Charged Getsu-ei should instantly kill whichever Overseer you use it on. For this run, we take out the Sky Overseer to get rid of wind magic. Afterwards, we use both Take Mikazuchi with Mazio and Rakshasa with Getsu-ei to get rid of the Heat Overseer. You can guess how the Decapitator dies. Getsu-ei is a strong skill.
Let me down.
I'm ready. What to do? I'll go with.
You dodged it. That's our leader. You dodged it. That's our leader. Let me down. You can't weakness. You dodged it. That's our leader. Let me down.
What to do?
The leader took one out.
I'll go with.
17 attempts, just like last Guardian. Now this is the funniest Guardian I've fought at this point. Floor 90's Guardians are the Deviant Convict and the Tome of Atrophy. The Tome debuffs you, while the Convict buffs itself for a big attack. Now this might sound annoying at first, but I got incredibly lucky. Why? The Convict's big attack is Herculean Strike. That's a strike attack. A physical attack. Rakshasa has a passive called Counter. Counter has a 10% chance to deflect physical moves back at the target. It triggered, and dealt 900 damage to the Convict. I didn't even remember that Rakshasa had Counter. I put him in because he had the highest endurance. I then realized I had an attack mirror in my item pool. The Tome of Atrophy only has Fuller to damage you.
This one. What to do?
You can't weakness.
I'll go with.
Let me down.
What to do?
You have a weakness.
I'll go with.
Watch out. Your attack power is low.
Never mind. You go.
Give it up, everyone.
I'll go with.
Watch out. Your attack power is low.
It was a first try victory. Now Floor 91's Guardian was a bit harder and a lot longer than Floor 90's. The fight consists of the controlling and dependent partner. The dependent partner is easy to dispatch. If you guessed Getsu EI, you'd be wrong, Poisma. But the controlling partner is annoying. Why? It's immune to slash and poison. That's no good. It deals way too much damage for us to trade blows, but I noticed something. It had no physical moves. With this revelation, what do? We use the worst skill in the entire game, of course. Lin and Shi is more of a support persona, with skills like Media, Diorama and Patra, but also has Spirit Drain. Spirit Drain is a move that drains SP from the target. How much? 20. Yeah, 20 SP. The good thing is that the controlling partner only has access to ice and wind skills, and Lin and Shi is resistant to wind and has diorama. takes 3 tries, but it takes a long time. On to the full moon. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello? Oh, the monad doors. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention them. Now you may think that I would do monad passages alone, but here's the thing. No, monad doors are optional passages with some powerful enemies, usually rewarding some gems and items used for weapon and armor fusion. Now why am I not doing them alone? They don't allow you to retry the battle. Now I can understand if you consider this cheating or unfaithful for the monad passage at the end of a block, but you must remember that monad passages that appear while exploring Tartarus leave once you exit the floor, so monad passages are done with teammates. Now we can go to the full moon shadow. We get a report that there's a big presence in an underground military base, so we quickly head down, only to get locked up by Streger, officially meeting Revolver Jesus and Nerd Emoji, their names actually being Best Boy Takaya and Best Boy Jin. They lock us in the base and force us to descend into the earth and fight a fucking tank. Yahoo! Now this fight is possible with only Door dealing damage, technically, yes, but I decided that for my sake I wouldn't, and here's why. To start off, the tank and the gun are in their combined form. They deal heavy pierce damage with their attacks. Now that's fine on its own, but they resist every damage type except for Almighty, and we have no access to Almighty. Now you remember how I said combined form. Does that mean there's a separated form? Yes. How do you get to that separate form? Using a Theurgy. Okay, that seems pretty fair. Door can use... Oh, hold on, let me check my notes. Wait, a Theurgy that deals damage? That's fine. Anyways, that's why I decided to do this fight with the party members only doing Theurgies. Now, when separated, Chariot uses strike skills while Justice uses light and pierce skills. Now Rakshasa is weak to light, but luckily we had some homunculi to protect from Hamon. For damage, Getsui is our one true god and it's at its most powerful, but since Chariot resists slash, we deal most of our damage to Justice. For healing, Linan Shi's diorama is better than items, so use her. By accident at the almost end of the fight, I used Aegis Theurgy. Aegis Theurgy is heavy pierce damage to all foes, but it makes her go into Orgia mode. Orgia mode makes Aegis more powerful but puts her on act freely. I forgot that, so at the end of the fight I used Mitsuru's Theurgy to kill Chariot, and Door killed Justice with Getsui. It takes 3 attempts, but hey, we're progressing well. Let's hope that'll stay the same. So usually you get 1 new team member per full moon, but instead we get 3. Why, I don't know. Anyways, on 8/8, we get introduced to the bestest boy, Korodog. Korodog is a dog, that's kind of it. He's just a dog. He's the bestest boy in the game, but I mean he's a dog, it's hard to beat that. We also get Ken on 8/28. Not a fan of his. There's also Shinjiro, yay, don't use him. Just trust me, he's broken as hell, but don't use him. I show you the table. Might as well tell you about some story events. On 8/14, we go for a simple medical checkup. That takes too long, so the British time happens, and Door and Takaya have to team up to kill the Shadow of the Abyss, which is a scripted fight, no need to worry. We also learn a bit more about Takaya and Streger and all that, which I do like. In the original Persona 3 games, Streger didn't get a lot of development and were just set as the antagonists to seize. But Reload lets Streger get more screen time, and I like that. On 8/16, you have to go to the Summer Festival, and there's only one correct option, which is to go with Mitsuru and Aegis. It does take up your day, but it's whatever. We get more screen time with Takaya on 8/20, asking the only important question in the game, get a vague answer, and get a piece of paper telling us a bit about evokers. Also, the love life between Junpei and Chidori is going pretty well. Let's hope that nothing bad happens from that. Let's go to the meat and potatoes of this run, Tartarus. Our first boss of Yabashar is on floor 99, 2 5 fingers of blight and a venomous magus. This is a battle of attrition, and, hold on, the fingers are easy to kill with dark skills, and the magus only uses fire skills to attack, which our persona with dark skills on Meraki is resistant to. And a persona we picked up in this block, Lamia, is immune to fire. Oh, well,
That's it.
That's an enemy down.
I'll go with.
That's an enemy down. You've been poisoned. You're losing health.
Or something.
That's an enemy down.
To do.
That's an enemy down.
Got that.
You dodged it. That's our leader. You dodged the attack. Nice one.
On marking.
Our leader took a hit.
On marking.
That's it. Enemy down.
Knocked it down. On marking.
That's an enemy down.
Never mind. There.
You dodged the attack. Nice one.
I'll go with.
That's an enemy down.
Never mind. You know.
You're hurt. Do you have any
Go
healing?
with. On marking.
Our leader took a hit.
This one.
Wow, you're all so powerful. Our leader's in danger. You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Our leader's in danger. 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 You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Our leader's in danger. Our leader's in danger. You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Our leader's in danger. Our leader's in danger. Our leader's in danger. Our leader's in danger. You're hurt. Do you have any healing? You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Our leader's in danger. 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 You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Our leader's in danger. Our leader's in danger. You're hurt. Do you have any healing?
Somehow made it.
5 attempts. Now our next boss has an actually interesting gimmick. Floor 105 contains the Bloody Maria and the Executioner's Crown. It's another ailment fight, but this time, they try to inflict fear and use Ghastly Wail, which instantly kills all feared targets. It would be an interesting fight, if not for the fact that the Bloody Maria isn't immune to poison. The crown is weak to fire, so just cook it to a cinder. I use Orthrus, as Lamia has a weakness to strike, which the Executioner's crown basic attack is.
Her leader's been knocked out! Thank goodness, now it's time for counterattack!
Right.
You dodged it! That's her leader! Her leader took out! This should be a good test of your strength. But don't get careless.
Let me in.
That's a enemy down!
Let me in.
Look at her weakness! Her leader's been knocked out! Thank goodness, now it's time for counterattack! That's an enemy down!
What to do?
That's an enemy down! You had a weakness!
What to do?
That's an enemy down! Keep up, everyone! You're hurt! You have a healing! That's an enemy down!
First try victory. Now the last guardian for this floor, the imposing skyscraper. It certainly is very imposing. If only I didn't have a null electric persona in the form of Takai Makazuchi. The only thing that could hit us is Herculean Strike, but the skyscraper barely went for it, and it only does around 120 damage, which can easily be healed off.
I'll go with you.
You dodged it! Nice one!
No. This one.
Wow, you're all so powerful! Her leader's been knocked out! Her leader's in danger! You're in bad shape! You need to recover before you get hit!
Not good.
Keep it up, everyone!
Here we go. No.
Wow, you're all so powerful!
It took 3 attempts, but that was because in the first attempt, I tried using ailments, and in the second, I got crit at the very end by Herculean Strike. Now remember how I said that Junpei was developing feelings for Chidori? Well, he overshares and tells Chidori how he's the leader of Seas. You don't tell someone that, Junpei. Bad Junpei. Anyways, on the day of the full moon, Junpei goes missing. I wonder why. Anyways, our next full moon shadow is in Paulonia Mall, so we trot along, let Fucker do some cooking with Lucia, And now we have to fight the average Genshin player in Club Escapade. This one is doable alone, once again in quotation marks. The Hermit is easy as hell, it specializes in electric and strike skills, and we have Takai Makazuchi. For the first phase you'll want to stay with Takai Makazuchi, but during the second phase, if it went for a physical move, I switched to Rakshasa, as he had higher endurance and strength. Otherwise just Getsu-e away, and this fight is a joke. I feel like Rakshasa and Takai Makazuchi just handshook and decided to kick the shit out of Hermit. It follows a pattern, and has 3 phases, so this has been the easiest full moon shadow ever.
Let's see.
3 attempts. Can the next block or full moon shadow be harder? Anyways, once we get back to the dorm, we find Junpei had been kidnapped by Chidori, so we quickly subdue her, and learn that Chidori is a persona addict, so we throw her into the hospital for safekeeping. I'm not kidding, this chapter is like a page long, makes my life easier. So story-wise, we get more Junpei and Chidori romance, learning about how Chidori relies on her persona Medea, even though it could kill her. Oh yeah, personas can go berserk. Forgot to mention that plot point. So personas can get a bit quirky at night and decide that they want to kill you, but luckily there are drugs that don't make them do that. Who gives them to her? Shinjiro. A seems perfectly, wait a minute. Otherwise a tsunami hits, we learn more about evokers Takaya and Jin, and we're on our way. To start with, we ascend through the new block Zia, and on floor 125 we fight 2 rampaging Sans and the Heartless Relic. Now I wasn't planning to win the first try, but well, the Sans use exclusively slash moves while the Relic buffs them, but we have the anti-slash man Rakshasa, and we have Counter-Strike, that reflects physical moves. When the Sans have exclusively physical moves, while when the Sans are alive, the Relic only has a basic attack for damage. When the Sans are dead though, the Relic suddenly learns Megiddo and Megadola, so be careful of that. Otherwise I just got really lucky with Counter-Strike and beat the fight on the first try.
I'll go with you. Alright. Not bad. No.
Radiant light of life, shine upon us all.
What to do?
You got this! That's our leader!
I'll go with you.
You got this! That's our leader!
I'll go with you. Not bad. Here we go.
Our leader's in danger! You dodged the attack! Next one! Only kill him! You got this!
I'll go with you.
You dodged the attack! Next one! You got this! That's our leader!
What to do?
You dodged it! That's our leader! With your cousin Tom, stay strong! Our leader's up on us!
Here we go. What to do? Persona.
Our leader's in danger!
What to do? What to do?
No shadows detected.
Now on floor 126, we've got the raging turret. The turret has 3 unique turns correlating to how many bullets the turret loads. With 3 bullets, the boss will buff itself. With 2 bullets, it'll use Vile Assault and charge. With 1 bullet, it'll use a charged heat wave dealing giga damage. So what's the issue with the turret? Well, it's immune to slash, so Rakshasa is useless. So Onmaraki is our second main source of damage. What's our first? Counter-Strike. Yeah, Counter-Strike is really good when the enemy only has physical moves. Anyways, the game plan is simple. Takai Minakata is a persona with a resistance to Pierce and Dekaja, so after 3 bullets, use Garu with Onmaraki and Dekaja with Takai Minakata. Otherwise, just use Garu and guard when Heatwave comes. Otherwise, it's just a battle of attrition, and we win those.
Gerhard, do you have any help?
What to do?
You struck a weakness.
Got that. Here we go.
I've already scanned this one.
I'll go with.
Have an enemy down. You struck a weakness.
I'll go with.
Have an enemy down.
What to do? You're mine.
Have an enemy down.
I'll go with.
Have an enemy down.
You're so
You struck a weakness.
I'll go with.
Have an enemy down. You got this. That's earlier. Have an enemy
I'll go
down.
with.
You hit a weakness. Energy. You can use it now. Have an enemy down. All enemies defeated.
1 attempt. I'm going to be honest, I forgot floor 132's terminal table existed. It just uses light. Use Neko Shogun. It can't touch you.
I'll go with.
Your speed and low. Be careful. Oh, you're all so powerful.
2 attempts because I forgot that Rakshasa is weak to light. Now, woo boy, remember the Will-O-Wisp Raven? I found their brothers. Floor 136 has 3 enemies, all of them bad. The first one is the Purging Right Hand. It has 2 moves, but they are really annoying. Eerie Sound and Poisma. Yep, that and a basic attack. The Subservient Left Hand buffs and debuffs and has a basic attack. The Jotun of Authority has a bunch of strike attacks. This'll take a while. To start off, you need to grab 2 silver quartz from either Monad Doors or the Strong Shadow to make the Tiger Hide belt. It grants 215 defense along with a high reduction to strike damage, and even with that it still isn't an easy fight. Put on a Sigma Drive, yes that's a real accessory, to reduce crit rate. Grab a Charge Cup card as well just to make things faster, and let's begin. Now why is this fight hard? Mostly due to the right hand. Eerie Sound inflicts distress, which lowers attack damage and increases the crit chance of physical moves, which the Jotun specializes in. And if the Jotun doesn't crit, it doesn't matter because the right hand will just poison you. Along with that, the left hand will just make everything more painful by buffing and debuffing everyone. It's a really annoying fight, but I find the best strategy is to use a combination of Thunderbird and Rakshasa. Thunderbird for Matsyonga to hit right hand's weakness along with shocking left hand to stop the buffs, then use Rakshasa for a big charged Getsugi. And repeat. I asked for a harder fight and I got one, and I'm happy.
Our leader's in danger! Dodge the attack! Next one!
Not that. I'll go with.
One enemy eliminated! Your defense is down. Keep an eye on your health.
Not that.
This should be a good test of your strength. But don't get careless. There's an enemy down!
I'll go with. City.
You can't weakness!
City. I missed.
25 attempts for this one. Finally, we get to our last Guardian of Zia 1, Floor 143's isolated castle. The castle is simple. It just has all the multi-target medium damage magic skills, except light and dark, kind of like the Clairvoyant relic from Arca 1. Except this one isn't cheesable, and it's much more attractive. Best strategy I can offer is either to gamble with Rakshasa, who is weak to wind, or just use Saki Matama. Bro thinks being immune to all magic damage will help him.
You dodged it! That's our leader! Our leader's been knocked down! Our leader's in danger! You dodged it! That's our leader!
No. This one. Here we go. Let's see what to do. City. What to do?
Our leader's been knocked down!
No. So. What to do?
You dodged it! That's our leader!
Let's see. I'll go with. Go. What to do?
4 attempts. Now the full moon shadows. Fucker tells us that she senses the shadows at Iwatodai station, so we run over, but oh no, just like last time we can't find people, this time being Ken and Shinji. Anyways, we now stand before Red 13 and Aerith from FF7, our next foes. Now let us talk about the gimmick. At the start of the fight, Strength makes Fortune untargetable by anything, so to get to Fortune, we need to murder Strength. That proves to be more difficult than expected though, because of Strength's resistances to slash damage, meaning that it's better to use a different persona besides from Rakshasa. The persona I choose is Virtue, as it has decently high magic stat, and has Koga, along with resisting wind. Now the second gimmick is that Fortune has a wheel. You could even call it the Wheel of Fortune. I hate myself. Anyways, the wheel has fixed results, so the outcomes are always predictable. There'll be a list here on what it rolls, but it also will use Garadine and Megaradine, which is another reason why I picked Virtue, as they resist wind. Now Strength isn't a big issue as they attack first, so their attacks are usually guarded, so they don't do a lot of damage but don't slack on them either. As their unique move, Morbius Roundabout, can deal a good amount of damage to everyone. Otherwise, this fight just takes a while instead of being hard. 5 attempts. But now we come to the really hard part of this chapter. So the reason why Shinji and Ken weren't available during this fight is because of Ken wanting to kill Shinji because Shinji's persona caster went berserk and killed his mother a few years ago, but then Takaya shows up and double pumps Shinji, killing him. Like he's dead. Like mega dead. Like he ain't coming back with a recalm, he's dead, man. Anyways, next chapter. Now before talking about the story and anything else, I do want to mention something, and that's the team I'm using to infiltrate Tartarus with. Now you might be thinking, oh, why are you mentioning this when all the teammates are only used for their theurgies? That's silly. It's because we're about to unlock second awakenings, and those are busted. Now there's one guaranteed party member, and 3 I cycle around with. Koromaru is our guaranteed spot. Why? Koromaru has access to both of his theurgies when he joins C's, being Hound of Hades and Power Howling. Hound of Hades is the stock standard damage theurgy, dealing severe dark damage to one target, but the real good one is Power Howling. It's just charged to everyone. Along with that, he has high evasion because he's a dog and has some good HP. Now our first member in the cycle is Akihiko. But why him? Both of his theurgies are damage, aren't they? Yes. However, both of them are pretty good. Lightning Spike is heavy electric damage to all targets, which is nice, but his other theurgy is leagues better. Electric Onslaught is severe electric damage to one target with a high chance to inflict shock. Shock is good because it gives higher crit chance to physical moves, which means Getsu E is better. Next up is Mitsuru. Mitsuru's got good ones in Blizzard Edge and Blades of Execution. Blizzard Edge is severe ice damage to a target, which is good, but Blades of Execution, dealing almighty damage, is already good, but when it also is debilitate, that just makes it even better. While yes, Mitsuru doesn't have the highest health pool, she's a great member to have on the team. Our last member in the cycle is Ken. Ken plays more of a support role with his second theurgy, but holy fuck is it insane. Divine Retribution is his damage theurgy, which deals severe light damage to a target, but then there's Divine Intervention. Meteorahan Samerkam to multiple targets, along with Tetra and Markar Khan, my brother in evolution. That is leagues better than Cadenza could ever be. Anyways, back to schedule. Depression, that's it. I kind of blanked out during this part of the run. Anyways, let's go to Tartarus. Floor 151 gives us the Pagoda of Disaster. God damn it. A tower in Eastern Asia of several stories erected as a temple or memorial. Alright, Well, we have the Pagoda of Disaster and 2 Tome of Persecutions. The tomes use buffs and ice magic, while the Pagoda uses electric and wind magic, both single and multi-target magic, but like I didn't say before but was implied, multi-target moves are single-target moves. So how do we beat the Guardians? Yamata no Orochi, also Quetzalcoatl but rarely. So why Yamata no Orochi? Immunity to ice and electric. That's it. Quetzalcoatl has immunity to ice as well, but only a resistance to wind instead of an immunity. Now at this point I didn't have cruel attack with Yamata no Orochi, so the best plan is to just basic attack, use some damaging items, and when their defense drops, use Garadine with Quetzalcoatl for bigger damage than a basic attack. Get rid of the tomes first. And after 21 attempts, I got the pagoda to fall. Get it? Because it's a tower? Yeah, I'm not funny. So I forgot to record floor 155's dancing beast wheel, but it uses a bunch of physical moves. However, I will mention a new permanent persona for us in Q Chulin. Charge, that's it. Next Guardian. Next is the two demented knights residing on floor 161. They use a combination of electric and dark skills. We use Baphomet, who nullifies dark.
Our leader's in danger! Your heart, do you have any healing?
Here we go. I'll go with persona. What's next? What to do? I'll go for something. What to do?
I think I can use it now. Our leader's in danger! Our leader's in danger! Radiant light of life, shine upon us all! Can you patch yourself up? The enemy's about to strike.
What to do?
Dodge the attack! Nice one!
I'll go with what to do. Let's see. I'll go for something. What's next?
and move on after 5 attempts. Floor 170 holds 2 Serpents of Absurdity and the not immune to poison Cruel Greatsword. The Serpents of Absurdity are ailment spammers, their 2 of choice being Charm and Poison, but their only source of damage is their basic attack, which is Strike for some reason. We have Shikioji who reflects Strike.
I'll go with. All right. Good work.
You dodged it! Panther leader! This will be a good test of your strength. Don't get careless. Come here, come on! Keep it up, everyone! Keep it keep an eye on your health! Keep it rested! You're losing health! You're losing it! Keep an eye on your health! You've been directed! You're losing health!
First try. Floor 171 has the Invigorate Gigas who uses strike attacks when we have Shikioji, who reflects strike, but I forgot that and used Tetrakarn, which reflects physical attacks.
What to do? I'll go with.
Are you feeling this to me?
I'll go with. What to do? I'll go with. Not that. And hit.
Keep it up, everyone!
I missed.
That's a takedown!
And hit.
That's a win for the team! Good job,
First
everyone.
try. Now the full moon brawl occurs between us and the Hanged Man, right? Nope. We learn that the Hanged Man resides on the Moonlight Bridge, so a hop, jump and a skip later, we find Takaya and Jin there, and they aren't happy. Well, I guess one little pit stop can't hurt, right? Haha. Yeah. Jin and Takaya are a strong duo, boasting both strong magic skills and good physical prowess and having the ability to shift. How do we beat this duo of death? Bring a small child, of course. Ken has Markara Khan and Jin prefers using his magic over his physical skills, so by using that in combination with Divine Intervention, we can constantly reflect Takaya's magic back at him, while we do the standard combo of charge and chop on Jin.
Now,
This worked. You guys just don't know when to quit. What to do?
Stop, Rojan! Keep it together! Calm down! Now!
Appreciate it. Guess what? Not the worst. Appreciate it. All right. You're up. Go for it. This will be your end. Persona. Get out here. I did it. Stay sharp, everyone.
I don't know. I'm not good.
Here we go.
This time for sure. And now, Rojan, you need to calm down.
I'm not up yet. This will be the trick. Easy like a book.
Can I stand on this, honey?
What to do? Go.
Then I have my confused. Watch out! Keep it together. Just watch.
Appreciate it.
Stop, Rojan! You need to calm down.
Let's go do this. Death to all humans. I'm not going down.
And now?
One step at a time. I've never had to fight this hard before. We shall show death to all humans. This too is fate.
Can anyone help?
I'll go with.
My energy. I think I can use it now. Will this work? Just watch.
There you go. Persona. Persona.
Someone confused. They may act unpredictably.
This one.
Juno, hear me. Please help them.
I'll go with.
Persona's ready. Persona!
This work.
Can I stand on this, honey?
I'll take care of this. Bam. We shall show. Persona. Out. Down on my knees here. Death.
Someone said I know! You're back, you're on our turn! Weapons! Premier Promise!
The best memory. I'll take care of this. Let's go. There you go. Persona. Jin, you are going to pay for that.
He's the only one left. Will this work?
This work. Death to all fools.
Stop, Rojan!
I'll go with.
Calm down!
Persona. Death all counts. What to do?
I'm ready to go.
It appears you have more than... Or so.
Persona's ready. Help us! Oh, enemy!
Thanks. I'll take care of this. Let's go. Death. I'll go with.
Now's my chance. Touching this!
Let's go! Go back to hell! Fighting others with the same power, and what difficult opponents they are. Look at how you squander your potential. It's beyond comprehension. Death. What to do? This can't be.
It takes 4 attempts, but the duo fall. So after Takaya and Jin jump off the bridge, we stroll over and find Jesus in the air, with his 3 disciples on the ground. Now all we have to do is kill the disciples, and Jesus will fall. So let's do that. All of the statues are weak to a different type of physical and magic attack, but we're focusing more on the physical part. For Slash, we have Gigachad Rakshasa, Pierce has Q Chulin, and for Strike, a new persona, Dakini. Otherwise, just keep Door healthy and let him spam physical moves. When Hangman falls, then we start with the problems. You see, Hangman's mechanic is a move called Grim Transcendence. GT just gives Hangman more turns, that's it. Otherwise, Hangman just has some strong moves and will summon his statues 2 more times. The first time is the same as the first time, just with different moves. And the second time summons a statue with resistances to everything. Otherwise, just hack and slash at Hangman. Watch out for the concentrated Megadolan, and you'll be okay.
What's happening? We're distressed. Just take a deep breath.
I'll go with. Never mind.
I think we got this.
Thanks.
I'm ready. No! Anyone help? The enemy lines are broken.
What to do?
Appreciate it. I'll end this.
Thanks.
The main line. This is your.
What to do?
Persona's ready. Help us! Oh, enemy! I'll get them where it hurts. Go for it. Take out the leg up. Try harder.
I'll go with.
gonna use this.
Thanks.
Freeze! Silent wall!
What to do?
Shadow is back in the air! We can't attack it anymore! Will this work? Now!
Thanks.
No, don't. We're back in the fight! Now it's our turn!
I'll go with. Not that. Something else.
Can I stand on this enemy?
What to do? I'll go with. Persona!
Do you know? It can't be! Here he doesn't
I'll
fight!
go with. Sit.
Amazing!
I'll go with. Not that. What to do? Never mind.
Give them all strength!
Never mind.
Hear me. Please help them.
What to do? Chucky! What to do? I'll go with.
The enemy line.
What to do? Appreciate it.
Momentum, build momentum. Shall I move this way? That doesn't work. I'm getting it on. Keep it together. Just watch.
I'll go with.
And now? This will do the trick. How about this?
What to do? I'll go with. Persona.
her. Go for it. I got the ladder.
Here we go.
Our stomach's ready. We're going. Here, Chief. I think I can use it now. Mom, no! Can anyone help?
Put it down.
This time for sure. I'll end this.
Appreciate it.
We came prepared.
Thanks.
Can't keep this up! What? Oh no, I'm not good.
I'll go with.
Gino, hear me. Please help them. I'm ready. I'll shut down. Appreciate it. And now, just watch.
Appreciate it.
Shall I move this right? Go for it. I got the ladder. It's poison. It reaches up with poison. And so I fix it.
Mark it down. Never mind. Something good?
3 tries for Hangman, but otherwise that's it. The game is over, right? We killed all the full moon shadows, so why is there still time left in the video? Arrow. So after we kill Hangman, the gang celebrates their #1 victory royale with even Mitsuru's dad coming to celebrate. But oddly, Akutsuki and Aegis are nowhere to be found. Odd. Anyways, we celebrate long enough for it to turn into the dark hour. Wait, I thought by killing all of the full moon shadows it'd stop the dark hour. Nope, fucker tells us Akutsuki and Aegis are at Tartarus, so we run on over, only to find that Akutsuki is evil and reprogrammed Aegis to capture us. Oh no, he tells us that he's been lying the entire time, and the reason that he needed the shadows to die was so that they could become whole once more to make death. And I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or any other fancy way. Death. Straight up. Anyways, Aegis captures us, and Akutsuki tries to sacrifice us to death. But before the sacrifice can happen though, Mitsuru's dad tries to use an evoker with bullets on Akutsuki. But Akutsuki has a quicker finger and can take a bullet, so Mitsuru's dad dies. Very sad. Anyways, Akutsuki tells Aegis to kill us, but through the power of friendship, Aegis breaks free from their control, and we force Akutsuki to jump off of Tartarus. The rest of this chapter is great for the story, but terrible for Tartarus. Let's get into Tartarus first. Floor 179's Cultist of the Storm uses wind magic while not being immune to it, so cue Chulin solos.
What to do?
Be careful.
This one.
Remember, you can stop the thing.
I've been hit.
Be careful.
2 attempts because I wasn't recording the first attempt. The Merciless Judge and Executioner's Greatsword on floor 184 boast ice and electric attacks to try and crit with physical attacks, but they're not immune to poison.
I'll go with. What to do?
6 attempts. Floor 188 holds the Chaos Panzer along with his 2 resentful Surveillant. The Surveillances buff the Panzer and debuff you, along with using Dark, but they're weak to slash. The Panzer is a charge boss, with his choice being Strike, Shiki-Oji and Rush.
Can I stand on this bunny? Okay, here's what I found. That's an enemy down! We get a weakness! Your defense is down. Keep an eye on your health. That's it! Enemy down! We get a weakness! Your defense is down. Keep an eye on your health. That's an enemy down! Please struggle with us. Come here, come on. That's an enemy down! He's active! That's earlier! That's an enemy down! We hit a weakness! That's an enemy down! Last one! Let's finish this!
One attempt. Lastly, Floor 193's Necromachinery. It uses Light and Almighty, so Quetzalcoatl is the choice, and just heal when it goes for Almighty moves.
You're hurt. Do you have any healing? Analysis complete.
I'll go with.
Electricity is useless here. Keep that in mind. Enemy attack friend! You need to get quickly! Our leader's in danger! You're really beat up! Hurry! You've got to heal! You're hurt. Do you have any healing? I think I can use it now. Juno, hear me. Please help them.
Here we go. What to do?
Our leader's in danger!
Not good. Here. I'll go with you.
Do you have any healing?
What to do? Go!
You're hurt. Do you have any healing?
Here we go. What to do?
What about this?
One attempt. See, told you Tartarus was boring. Anyways, onto the story. Now remember the British kid I dunked on a while ago? He leaves. We've done our purpose to him, so he leaves. On an unrelated note, we get a new transfer student named Ryuji, and he's what Kenji wishes he could be. Fuck Kenji. Anyways, we become fast friends, but Aegis doesn't like him for some reason. But why? He's a nice boy, he could never do anything wrong. Anyways, we then have our school trip to Kyoto, which shows us some team bonding, but also gives us Mitsuru's second awakening. So we now have all of our second awakenings for my team. And yes, I did first try the hot springs, I'm a gamer. Before the full moon, Takaya and Jin free Chidori from the hospital, so now we need to fight her because she's mad at herself and Junpei. The fight is scripted, so I won't show it to you, but just bring Fire Null and you'll be fine. After that, Takaya shoots Junpei. Rest in pepperoni bozo. I'm just kidding. Chidori casts Rikandra to bring Junpei back, but kills herself. Junpei has his second awakening, and now he's depressed because Chidori is dead. He gets better after a few days though. Now at the full moon, since there's no full moon shadow, we have the whole day to ourselves, and if you're wondering, I stopped with the tables. It's just social links and sleeping, nothing more to say. Anyways, Aegis and Ryuji are weirdly missing. Huh. Anyways, we go sleepy time, but get woken up, thrown out onto the Moonlight Bridge from the Hangman fight, and find Ryuji and Aegis, who is short-circuiting. Ryuji tells us that he's death, and that something called the Fall will happen. The Fall is the end of the world, and gives us two options. 1. We stab Ryuji now, lose all our memories, and let the Fall happen. 2. Shank Nyx's avatar, who is Death, who I will refer to as Nyx for my sake, and stop the Fall from happening. We of course are choosing option 3, bringing a sword, a gun and a MP3 player to a sword fight, so it's option 2. Let's hope that we can stab Nyx well enough to stop the end of the world. Here we are. The home stretch. Just this and the final block of Tartarus. We're close to the end and I pray that the Tartarus Guardians are there easy. Speed blitz time. Floor 203's Icebreaker Lion and Luckless Cupid is easy when you have Quetzalcoatl and the accessory incense box.
What to do?
You got it! That's our leader! Our leader's in danger!
Here we go. I'll go with 6.
Our leader's in danger! Our leader's in danger!
What to do? I'll go with what to do?
3 attempts. Floor 212's trio of brothers are easy because the youngest and middle child are both weak to elements that Quetzalcoatl specializes in, and the eldest only has Slash as a damage source when we have Siegfried.
You can't weakness. You're feeling all the time. Just stay strong. That's it. Let it go. Our leader's been knocked down. That's our leader! That's an enemy down!
What to do?
You hit a weakness! You dodged it! That's our leader! Our leader's been knocked down! Our leader's in danger! Can you catch yourself? The enemy's left front! That's an enemy down!
No. What to do? Done that.
You dodged the attack! Nice one! Our leader's been knocked down! Our leader's in danger!
I'll go with.
One enemy eliminated!
All right. All right.
Keep it up, everyone!
That's an hit.
Enemy down! Last one! Let's finish this! All enemies defeated!
2 attempts. Floor 218's scornful dice tries to raid you so that it can heal off of your basic attack, but Poison doesn't care.
Let's see. Something else. I'll go with. What's next?
That's a win for the team!
2 attempts. Floor 225's Minotaur Nulla has magic but prefers using strike skills but is immune, so reflecting them only stops the damage, otherwise just rush with Shikioji and you'll be fine.
All right.
Wow, they're all so powerful!
What's next?
This should be a good test of your strength, but don't get careless!
I'll go with. What to do? Let's see. I'll go with. Here we go.
Keep it up, everyone! Remember, you can stop it and look back! Our leader's in danger! Remember, you can slowly think ahead. Our leader's in danger! Wow, they're all so powerful! You got it! That's our leader!
What's next? What's it gonna find?
Remember, you can start to think ahead.
Here we go.
Get it up, everyone! Remember, you can start to think ahead. Our leader's in danger!
Got that.
Wow, they're all so powerful! You got it! That's our leader!
One attempt. That's all for Tartarus. Back at home it's more depression. Everyone's sad until they realize that dying is gay, and we gotta slap Nyx around some so we don't kill Ryuji and choose to fight Nyx. Here we are. The last stand against Nyx. Well, let's climb up Tartarus for our second to last time and reach the highest point. On floor 230, the obsessive sand stands in our path, and it only uses light and slash, which Siegfried nullifies. Joy.
What to do?
You can use it now.
What to do? Here we go.
Remember, you can start to think ahead. Through the cracks, just take a deep breath.
Floor 236. Floor 236. Yeah, this one's hard, I'll just say it now. It took 193 attempts and I didn't do it alone. The fight contains 3 types of enemies but 5 total enemies. Our solo is the comeback castle. The castle buffs and debuffs all but accuracy, evasion, along with having poison mist. Next up we have 2 magic hands. They use all magic types but light and dark. Lastly we have 2 foot soldiers who are the opposites of magic hands, having all types of physical attacks. So how do we win? We can't. It is a 5v1. If I try to do it alone, I try and heal once, I'm most likely taking more damage than I'm healing. Believe me, I tried several different methods, and none of them worked. I tried nullifying the damage, but there's too many sources to negate all the damage types. I tried killing the minions, but the castle summons them back. Even if you kill all the minions on the same turn, you get 1 free turn before the castle summons all of them back. I tried for so many hours but nothing came of it, so I broke the first optional rule, grabbed my team, and beat the Guardian. We were on such a good record too.
I was careless. Until I moved to right. You dodged the attack! Nice one! Keep it together. Will this help? Much obliged.
To do. Never mind. I'll go with.
This will do the trick. I'll hit the mirror. Yes, I'll protect you all. Alright. You came prepared. Thanks. Where are you aiming? The Ranger Senpai. That was a beautiful dodge. Work. How about all enemy? Way too slow. Well, then avoiding that, Amada-kun.
What's next?
Predictable. Well, then avoiding that, Amada-kun. Were you trying to hit me? The Ranger Senpai. That was a beautiful dodge. It's poison. I'm ready to strike. Nowhere to run. You're fast now. One enemy eliminated. The Ranger Senpai. That was a beautiful dodge. Keep it together. I'll end this. Now.
I'll go with. I told you.
Excellent, Coconut.
Go.
Excellent, Coconut. You're not down. Way too slow. Well, then avoiding that, Amada-kun. Now's my chance. Go! Catching this! One enemy eliminated. The enemy lines are broken. Now's your chance. All enemies defeated. Good work out there.
Well, the next Guardian can't be as hard, right? Not as hard, but I'm just stupid. Floor 241 has 2 Overseers of Creation. They have access to all types of magic and primal force for some reason, along with buffs, but they only use primal force and buffs if they get a 1 more. First I thought I could outdamage them. Nope. Then I tried Markara Khan, it didn't work as there's 2 of them. I tried using Shikioji, who has a wind weakness and evade wind. It didn't work. I was lost, but then I had a really good idea. Find a persona who has no magical weakness. I'll introduce you to first name Gigachad, last name Oni. Say hi to him. And yes, that's his full legal name, blame Deus for that. Anyways, by using him, some almighty gems, magic mirrors, and a handful of Markare Khans. Yes, I know I said they didn't work, but it worked out. The overseers lose their sight.
You dodged the attack! Nice one!
Here we go. Here we go.
Our leader's in danger! Our leader's in danger!
Here we go. I'll go with. Alright. What to do?
Our leader took one out! Our leader's been knocked down! You're hurt. Do you have any healing?
I'll go with. This one. Here. I'll go with. What to do? I'll go after someone. What to do?
Oh, enemies to be
30 attempts. Can the next one be easy? I know I said I wanted a challenge, but these are hard. Luckily, the next few bosses range from first try to barely double digits. First up, Floor 246's Appropriation Noble and his sidekicks, Double Invasive Serpent. The Noble drains your SP while the Serpents try to poison you. Now I want to introduce a very special accessory called the Incense Box. The Incense Box gives Insta-Heal, which I mentioned in Chapter 9, but I never said what Insta-Heal does. Ailment wears off the moment your turn begins. Yeah, so the poison does nothing to us. Otherwise, Shikioji is the persona of choice, as he nulls fire with a passive, and has resistance to light. 10 attempts. Now somehow, even though I know I recorded it and saw it uploaded to my files, footage for the next 2 bosses and a big event was lost. I had already saved over my save file, so there's no way to reacquire the footage. The High Judge of Hell is in fact very high up. Floor 247 to be precise. He's got a few different ways to attack, but Siegfried plus Incense Box should be perfect, as Siegfried has no immunity to ice and electric, and can get frozen or shocked easily, so the Incense Box nullifies them. The High Judge also has slash attacks, so that's why Siegfried is the choice. 1 attempt. Next we have the Cultist of Death residing on floor 253. They use insta-kills. Use Quetzalcoatl to exploit their wind weakness. Homunculi will take care of you. 1 attempt. Now you may be wondering what the big event I talked about a little while ago was. Well, I did a test, and Siegfried's Brave Blade does more damage than Rakshasa's Getsui. It is with great honor that I retire Gigachad Rakshasa. You were a good man. Next is the pair of hedonistic sinners of floor 254. They use slash and electric skills, but the main problem is that they're immune to slash. So our normal strategy of nullifying all of the enemy's damage and grabbing a latte doesn't work. Our damage comes from Kali, who also reflects slash. Kali has Heatwave, which deals strike damage. To reduce damage, we grab the accessory for reduce electric damage high and start chipping away at the Guardian, attempt by attempt. 7 attempts. Now the last guardian in our way, the genocidal mercenary of 255. The mercenary has a 4-step plan: 10 Tarafu, Akasha Arts, Heat Riser, and Megadolan. It'll repeat that, but surprisingly it doesn't have a lot of SP. Stalling it out is an effective strategy which I use. and on the first attempt with help from Shikioji, we kill the mercenary first try. 3 fights remain. Quick note, I know I won't be able to beat Takaya or Nyx without support, but maybe Jin would be possible. I didn't try though. On 1/31st, the final day occurs, and our one goal is to kill Nyx. We ascend Tartarus for the last time, with our team of Akihiko, Ken, and Koromaru, and yes, I will discuss them in a minute, and our first of 3 battles begins. Jin is an interesting fight, because he knows our weaknesses and will exploit them. Before that, you're probably wondering where the video of me beating Jin is. I'd like to know as well. I know I was recording, and I know that OBS saved my video file, but it's not in the folder where I keep my recordings, so the fights between Jin, Takaya, and Nyx are lost media. Me and OBS have beef now, spoiler warning for the challenge, so I'll give you a few seconds to skip to this timestamp. Here's the screenshot of the completed save file, and I don't have a backup save file, so no, I can't re-record it. Please don't say I'm cheating. This is my first time using OBS for videos longer than 3 hours. Next time, I'll probably stream my challenge run so that I can just use the VODs. Now why Akihiko, Ken and Koromaru, and not Mitsuru? Well, it's simple. Ken is here for his absolutely amazing support skills, Tetrakan Markar, Akan Heat Riser and Divine Intervention. He is the master of support, and his shields will carry the last few fights. Koromaru is our means to become the hydrogen bomb, with both Debilitate and Revolution. He's a great boy and soon will become the best animal persona user ever. Akihiko is here so that I don't get hit. That's it. Mitsuru's main support is Marakunda, but with the amount of precious eggs we have, Koromaru using Debilitate every turn is very possible, so we don't use her. Let's go into the strategy. Now the fight has a few phases. In the first phase, he'll use elements we're weak to. Just throw up some Markar Akans with Ken, and he'll hurt himself with the damage he does. Next phase, he'll use multi-target moves, which really aren't a problem. For me, he always seemed to go after Akihiko's ice weakness. Also in the second phase, he has access to a move called X-Flash Grenade, which deals 200 damage and has a chance to confuse. Other than that, keep using Charged Brave Blade with Siegfried and you should be fine. For the last phase, he injects the weed into him via stim, but the weed was bad so it made him poisoned. Here, Jin has access to some very powerful spells such as Concentrate and Megadolan, but he'll also take 1600 damage at the end of his turn, so it's a race to the bottom. Luckily we have the power of healing and Jin doesn't. It takes 2 tries to fell the second member of Strega. Well, not fell, he sacrifices himself to protect us from some shadows. We climb up further to find Takaya waiting for us. He yaps about some boring stuff and we fight. Takaya specializes in dark magic, but I believe he has all types of magic, along with being able to drain SP through Soul Drain and ailment skills, specifically ones for fear, but really he's not terribly threatening. Phase 1 just has his dark and ailment skills though. At the start of Phase 2 he drains all of Door's SP, but we have eggs so that doesn't affect us too much, but otherwise it's just the same. Phase 3 starts with Megadolan, but it's not too scary. Takaya still has access to Spirit Drain, so keep some eggs on standby. Otherwise just keep charging and keep Brave Blading. Remember to always have a Markar Akan on Door, as Siegfried is weak to dark. Phase 4 only has one thing to worry about, and that's his Theurgy, Paradise of Quietus. It can inflict fear, while also stealing all but one of everyone's SP. However, he's really low at this point, so 1 or 2 more Brave Blades should do the trick. 4 attempts. Now our final battle, the battle against Nyx. Steel yourself folks, we got 14 phases to go through. To start off, the full phase is just nothing. Just conserve your SP on Door and basic attack. It does give us some free time to set up though, so that's nice. 13 left. Next is Magician. Magician specializes in fire magic. Use Suzaku and basic attack. 12 left. Next is Priestess and Empress. Priestess uses ice and Empress uses wind. I grouped them together because you'll be using the same persona, Pazuzu. Also for Priestess, keep a Makarakan on Akihiko. For Priestess, use A-Gown, and for Empress, use Poison Arrow as Empress resists dark. 10 left. Emperor and Hierophant are next, and Chernobog is our choice as he nullifies Slash, which Emperor uses, and Dark, which Hierophant uses, even though Hierophant used Light in his full moon fight. 8 left. Save your Theurgies though. Why to skip Lovers? This is Vengeance. 7 left. We have Chariot next, who we keep Chernobog in for. Use A-Gown and watch out for Myriad Arrows as Chernobog has no protection against Pierce. 6 left. We got 3 in a row, with Justice, Hermit and Fortune all being covered by Siegfried. Justice uses Light, which Siegfried nullifies, Hermit is Electric, who we just push through, and Fortune is just the tier 4 variations of the elemental skills. Charge Brave Blade through all of them and keep pushing. 3 left. Back to Chernobog for strength, who only has Mobius Rondo, so this phase is a breeze. Maybe not for your teammates though. 2 left. Hangman could be a bit of a problem, with Nyx having access to Charged God Hands and Concentrated Megadolons, along with having Grim Transcendence. But thankfully Nyx only uses Charge and Concentrate on the last turn of Grim Transcendence, so we can dispose of Hangman. 1 left. The final Arcana is Death, the true form of Nyx. In Death, Nyx has access to every single unique move, along with 2 other skills, Apocalypse, which puts you at 1% HP, and Night Queen, which deals a massive amount of almighty damage and inflicts random ailments. Nyx also has Megadolon, Tetrakarn, Markar, Arkan, Heat Riser, and Concentrate, but no charge for some reason. Well, just use Siegfried and keep swinging. Other than that, once Nyx drops to 0, the fight is over. We go up to fight actual Nyx, and with the power of friendship, no, I'm not kidding, we cast Great Seal, and Dor finally becomes his true form, Adore. And now, other than the last few days, the game is over. We beat Nyx and saved the world. No, I'm not going to beat the Reaper or Elizabeth. That's it. If you want to leave now, knowing the answer, you may. I'm going to be yapping without the slideshow, so you can go. Hey y'all, thanks for sticking around. This is my first video like this, where it's not just bad Yomi Hustle content, and I know they're bad. They're directionless and not good, with a loose idea connecting all of them together. I really enjoyed doing this, and I will do more. If there's any ideas you want to see me try, let me know in the comments, but I already have 3 challenges in mind which I will do first. I'll post a community poll a bit after this goes live, so you can vote on the next game. Most likely, when the answer episode Aegis comes out, I will do the same challenge to it, as well as it being my first ever playthrough of the answer, so it'll be a new experience for both you and I. I will try to post smaller videos, along with Season 2 of Unnamed Yomi Hustle Scripted Battles, which will be the tournament arc, but I like working on these bigger videos. Don't expect them often though, as I'm still a student. If you've got things you liked, let me know. If you've got things you didn't like, let me know. Please subscribe so I don't feel like I wasted around 130 hours of my life.